The first day of campaigning is underway in Ontario amidst a rare winter election. More than a year ahead of schedule, political leaders are launching their pitch to you, the voters. Good afternoon. It's official. Ontarians will be going to the polls in less than a month.
Ontario's Lieutenant Governor signing the writ this morning, giving the go-ahead to the snap election. The writ is a formal document that specifies the day by which candidates must be nominated and sets the election date, which is February 27th. Ontario's Premier met Lieutenant Governor Edith Dumont yesterday to request a dissolution of the legislature. And now the final formality has been checked off and the writ has been issued. Ontario's political leaders fanned out across the province today, launching their campaigns.
They are making their case for why they should be given the top job. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live with more. You're going to be busy this month, Siobhan.
Very busy. I do want to point out that we heard from the Chief Electoral Officer in Ontario in the last half hour, and he said we haven't had a true wintertime election like this since 1883. Campaigning in the deep of a Canadian winter definitely has some unique qualities to it. We saw the wind almost blow a hat off one candidate. This is the position that Doug Ford has put us in. He has said to the people of Ontario he believes he needs a new mandate, a stronger mandate, one that will last 4 years through the presidency of Donald Trump. It's all because of the tariffs that Donald Trump has said are coming against Canada on February 1st. Opposition leaders continue on this first day of campaigning to say this election is unnecessary. They're trying to find room in the campaign conversation to highlight some of the shortcomings of the Ford government. We saw Bonnie Crombie launch her campaign in Barrie, a community where she says 55,000 people are without a family doctor. Marit Stiles launched her campaign here in Toronto, promising to form a government that will deliver more for the people of Ontario, one that will be one that works for the people of Ontario. Here's more of what we heard from the leaders on their first day.
To protect Ontario and Canada, we need a strong leadership that is prepared to do whatever lies ahead, despite the chaos we now see in Ottawa.
Is he the guy for the job? No. Doug Ford standing up to Trump? No. Yeah, I say hell no.
You can't slap a label on a hat and pretend you're a leader. Real leaders fix healthcare. Real leaders work, and they are on the job, not gallivanting around the province calling unnecessary elections.
I think it's Doug Ford's record of failure. His failure to fix the housing crisis, his failure to fix healthcare, his failure in the fact that students are learning in overcrowded classrooms.
Ontario's Chief Electoral Officer says this election will cost about $189 million to run. It wouldn't be any more or less if we had waited until the fixed election date next spring. However, on a shortened timeline for an election, we are seeing fewer advanced voting days, only 3 this time instead of 10. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Natalie, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. Elections Ontario says the early election call presents a number of challenges, but this morning the province's Chief Electoral Officer said the independent office of the Legislative Assembly is ready.
Staff across the province are working diligently to set up 124 local voting offices, hire over 55,000 polling day staff, and establish more than 7,000 voting locations to serve the 10.8 million electors and ensure voting is accessible and efficient. This is a monumental task, requiring careful planning, coordination, and collaboration.
Elections Ontario says its top priority is to make sure every eligible voter knows when and where to cast their ballot and can do so easily.
To other news, Toronto police are investigating a shooting in Scarborough involving a tow truck driver who was taken to hospital with serious injuries last night. We'll have the latest on the investigation in moments. But first, the Bank of Canada has cut interest rates by a quarter point.
However, it is warning that its next moves could be impacted by U.S. tariff threats. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live with more on this story. Beth.
Natalie, I would say there is a mix of relief and anxiety from the people I spoke with in this neighborhood about what's coming next. The Bank of Canada's decision to cut the key interest rate by another 25 basis points to 3% comes at a time of uncertainty. Governor Tiff Macklem said while the threat of U.S. tariffs are top of mind, they were not a factor in this rate cut. The bank is expecting GDP growth will strengthen if there isn't prevent a trade war. Here in Liberty Village, people are still concerned with the cost to buy a home, keep up with the cost of living, and those with mortgages are paying close attention.
Would love to have a home one day, and it feels a little bit closer than it did before, but still decently out of reach. So yeah, it's tough.
It's good for housing in general, right? I mean, mortgage cost is going down, so affordability becomes more accessible for all of us, and I think that's important because the hike was a little bit rough on everybody.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm putting money aside, for instance, just in case interest rates start going up because of tariffs and whatnot.
As a young person, it just doesn't feel like it's within reach to be able to establish like a good future in Canada where I can afford to have my own place or afford to do things that my parents would have been able to do.
Some experts say this decision to cut this rate by this much points to the fact that there is uncertainty over those possible looming tariffs, and this decision is doing what's necessary to maintain price stability. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. We turn our attention to the forecast, and for many, the day started with plenty of shoveling, a healthy dose of snow blanketing the region. And as we clean up today, lovely sunshine, decent temperatures, although the wind is certainly a factor out there. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. What are you seeing this afternoon, Lindsay?
Well, we are seeing sunshine, Michelle, a few flurries in some areas, and that temperature you mentioned is going to take a tumble as we continue through this afternoon. Let's begin, though, with the active weather. Gone is the system snow. We've got snow squalls in the wake of it, though, thanks to those northwest winds. Heads up if you're joining us from Milton, Burlington, you could be still seeing some snow at this hour. Kitchener-Waterloo included in what is still a winter weather travel advisory. Snow squall warnings are also in place for those traditional snow belt areas for today. As mentioned, winds have changed direction. They're coming out of the northwest, and they're pretty strong, gusting close to 60 kilometers per hour already at this hour. Our current temperature is -2 degrees. We started off the day at 2 degrees on the plus side, so our temperature is on the way down. We'll be at about -6 degrees for the early part of this evening, and the temperature roller coaster continues for the rest of the week. We'll take you through it with a full look at your forecast coming up. For now, though, Natalie, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. A pedestrian has been struck and killed near the 401 and Allen Road. Police say the woman was struck by a vehicle at Faywood Boulevard and Wilson Avenue just after 9 a.m. She was taken to hospital where she was pronounced dead. The driver remained at the scene. Road closures in the area remain in effect as the investigation continues. Meanwhile, in Scarborough, police are investigating yet another shooting involving a tow truck driver.
This happened last night and sent one man to hospital. CTV's Janice Golding is in Scarborough this afternoon with the very latest. What can you tell us, Janice?
Hi, Michelle. Yes, we're standing outside a Petro-Canada gas station here in Scarborough, which is where a man was discovered shot in the cab of his vehicle with serious injuries. Now, police believe this is linked to a rising spate of violence in the tow truck industry. Police were called here to the Kennedy and Progress area for reports of a shooting just after 7 p.m. When police arrived on scene, they discovered a tow truck operator with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The shooting is the latest incident in what police are calling a tow truck turf war in the GTA. Earlier this month, police launched a new task force called Project Dodger to combat tow truck-related disputes. In 2024, police say tow truck-related disputes were connected to 63 firearm discharge and shooting incidents, making up nearly 13% of all shootings in Toronto. So far in 2025, investigators have linked 70% of shootings in Toronto to the industry. Here's what people in the area have to say about the situation.
I just think it's a war between them all.
Why?
They all need to get it together. Yeah, it makes me a little nervous walking around. Go out before it gets dark.
Yeah, I think it's gone wild because this happened even last year. There was a lot of shootings in the tow truck industry. I don't know if it's to do with regulating the industry or not, but yeah, it's getting hectic.
Project Dodger follows on the heels of Project Beacon, which was a similar project that ran last year in the summer and resulted in 6 arrests in relation to 13 incidents. 184 charges were laid. Reporting live from Janice Golding. Now back to Natalie.
Okay, thank you, Janice. A vigil was held last night in honor of a man who was fatally shot 3 years ago. His killers have never been caught, and there are now renewed calls for justice.
brother.
Friends and family braved the winter weather to honor Ike Kaja. He was shot outside his home in Your Avenue in Eglinton on January 23, 2022. He died in hospital days later. The Vigil celebrated his life while raising awareness about a scholarship the University of Toronto launched in his honor. It has raised $70,000 to date.
We're still lost and devastated, and still don't know why. And still don't understand why we don't have any answers, to be honest.
Investigators with Toronto Police also attended the vigil to show their support for Kaja's family. They say there are no updates on the investigation into his murder, but the case remains active. Turning now to the fight to curb auto thefts here in the city.
Police have made 6 arrests and seized more than a dozen stolen vehicles. CTV's Rahim Ladani is live at Toronto Police headquarters with the details. Rahim.
Well, Michelle, Toronto police have what's called a hold-up squad, and around 5 months ago, they launched an investigation into finding stolen and trafficked vehicles. Well, just last week, they arrested 6 people and recovered 14 stolen vehicles. What you're looking at right now are some of those vehicles, and as you can see, they've been stripped down, believed to be destined for overseas. This is how the vehicles were discovered back in September. Canada Border Services Agency officers intercepted a shipping container where inside 6 vehicles were found, and they had been stolen from Toronto, York, Peel, and Halton region. Then last week, the hold-up squad I mentioned executed a search warrant at an auto body shop, and they recovered 8 more stolen vehicles from Toronto, Halton, Durham, and Ottawa. They arrested 5 people then and also recovered a replica handgun, ammunition, and a GPS jammer.
The investigation is ongoing. I would consider these mid-level players. This is a rather complex investigation that includes an auto body shop. These were not the people going out and stealing the vehicles at the frontline level. These were, I believe, the processors of that of the vehicles that would be then moved on to the next level up. It's a GTA auto body shop. The investigation is still ongoing, so I won't get into the particulars of it, but they had all the facilities there to dismantle all vehicles and then repackage them.
In total, 6 people have been arrested. They range in age from 20 to 57 years old. Combined, they're facing 63 charges, and the inspector tells me that none of them were out on bail from previous charges when they made this arrest. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladani. Natalie, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Rahim. There are heightened concerns after a little Chihuahua named Chico was suddenly snatched by a coyote.
The beloved pet was out for a walk downtown on a leash when it was killed by the aggressive animal. CTV's John Musselman has the story.
She is too upset to show her face on camera, but this dog owner is devastated after her little dog was attacked and killed by a coyote.
Right on the corner, he just popped out and grabbed Chico, and on leash, I had 2 leashes. He grabbed Chico and just took off, and I fell. I scraped both of my knees trying to hold on to him, and he just grabbed him and just ran up.
It happened on Friday night around 10:30 near Canoe Landing Park. That's a high-density condo area near Lakeshore and Bathurst. The woman, whose name is Jessica, was walking her 4-year-old Chihuahua named Chico and her smaller puppy named Pedro. The coyote snatched Chico, pulling the leash right out of her hand. She ran after her dog, but there was nothing she could do.
I've been crying on and off, and I don't understand. I just don't believe it.
A day later, they found Chico's sweater. His remains were located on Sunday near Fort York. This is just the latest attack by an aggressive coyote in this area. Last fall, a coyote went after a dog on a leash on the front porch of a home in Liberty Village. The city says it has provided coyote information sessions in the community, and it encourages residents to report any aggressive behavior. Dog owners are reminded to keep their dogs on a leash at all times and be aware of your surroundings.
I mean, it's scary. You know, you got to be extra careful and vigilant right now. So, especially with small dogs.
The city offers this advice. If residents encounter a coyote while walking dogs, they are advised to pick the dog up or keep the dog on a short leash and move to an area with more activity. It's important that residents maintain eye contact while moving away from the coyote and, if possible, make noise and be big and assertive. Coyotes are naturally timid and flee when confronted assertively. Back near the park, Jessica says she hasn't taken her smaller dog out at night, and she's staying close to her condo as a precaution. The city is in the process of reviewing its coyote strategy, and staff will report back to council later this year. John Musselman, CTV News.
Canada has increasingly become a target of Donald Trump during news conferences as well as on social media. And now a new poll suggests many Canadians believe the country's reputation is getting worse on the world stage. CTV's Scott Hurst is standing by live with more on this. Scott, there's the latest Nanos poll on Canada's international reputation reveals we don't think the world sees us too well. What's going on here?
Not a great image right now, Michelle. Good afternoon. So 2 key points to really take from these numbers. The latest Nanos research, it appears that Canadians, at least internally, we think, a majority of us think that the country is on the wrong path. And when it comes to externally, our global reputation, how others view us, a majority of Canadians also think that that has suffered in recent years. 2 out of 3 Canadians think the country's reputation has gotten worse over the past year, while only 10% think that it has improved in some way. The perception of Canada's direction notably has also gone the wrong way over the past several years. If we look at that trend line, at least from 2020, less than 30% felt our country was going in the wrong direction, so much more optimism. Now that number has swelled to more than 60%, saying Canada is on the wrong path. There you see 2024, 64% of Canadians saying our country is moving in the wrong direction. That is an all-time high in the 18 years that Nanos has been tracking this issue. So not a great not a great reputation right now in terms of what other people think of us, Michelle, but also not a great feeling in terms of how Canadians think our own country is moving.
They've been tracking this for years. Obviously, there's a big shift. Let's get into the reason for this.
Michelle, first and foremost, a lot of people who track politics will tell you ultimately governments have a shelf life. The Trudeau Liberals have been in power for several elections now, and over time, a lot of their policies become stale and increasingly unpopular. You don't have to look any farther than the carbon tax for that specifically. But when it comes to our reputation on the international stage, according to Nanos research, he's pointing to tensions with China and India and also our strained relationship with the new Trump administration. Here's more from Nick Nanos on that part of the research.
Canada, for all intents and purposes, almost become like an international punching bag for Donald Trump. It seems like we're his favorite target, us and Mexico. So, you know, when we ask Canadians on whether they think our international reputation is improved or not improved, it's pretty clear that Canadians are much more likely to think that things have not been getting better, and speaks to the situation that we're in and the difficulty that we have right now with the U.S. administration.
Yeah, so when it comes to how people view us, our reputation on the international stage, these strained relationships are causing us to feel like others are looking at us a certain way, and it appears that it's not going in the right direction. This latest research is showing that on the world stage, it appears our reputation is getting worse, and how we're doing as a country itself not on the right path, according to a majority of Canadians.
CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will host another meeting with the premiers today to discuss Canadian-American relations and the threat of U.S. tariffs. And later this afternoon, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister will sit down with her American counterpart in Washington. Mélanie Joly is set to discuss the tariff threat with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Earlier this week, Joly said she believes diplomacy will help fend off the plan to slap all Canadian goods with a 25% duty. Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said today she does not believe the U.S. will impose tariffs on her country on February 1st.
In India, there's been a deadly stampede at a religious gathering. Police say at least 30 people were killed, 60 others injured in the tragedy. Millions of pilgrims rushed to dip in sacred waters during a festival in the northern part of the country. Authorities expected a record 100 million devotees to take part. This was a sacred day in the 6-week Hindu festival, the world's largest religious gathering.
In the Middle East, an Israeli official says Hamas will free 8 hostages in the next release, which is slated for tomorrow. 3 Israelis, including 2 women and an 80-year-old man, as well as 5 Thai nationals, are expected to be freed. In northern Gaza, Palestinian families continue to return to their communities following the ceasefire deal. But for many, joy is turning to despair as they return to unlivable, bombed-out homes and dire shortages of basic supplies. By late yesterday, Gaza's Hamas Authority said most of the 650,000 people displaced from the north had re-entered Gaza City and the north edge of the enclave.
In Washington, a confirmation hearing has begun for a controversial nominee slated for Donald Trump's cabinet.
And I believe that that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare. All of my kids are vaccinated. I've written many books on vaccines. My first book in 2014, the first line of it is, I am not anti-vaccine, and the last line is, I am not anti-vaccine, nor am I the enemy of food producers.
That's Robert Kennedy Jr., the U.S. president's pick to lead the top U.S. health agency. He's being grilled by Democrats and Republicans in the Senate over his views on vaccines, as well as abortion and potential conflicts of interest. Kennedy is also scheduled to appear in front of a second Senate panel that oversees health today. Lindsay.
So we do know that many communities are going to get a little more snow accumulate today. This is mainly in the traditional snow belt areas of Ontario, the ones under a snow squall warning. But here's a look at where else some snow could fall, perhaps around Kitchener-Waterloo. Hamilton now under that winter weather travel advisory. It's been cold. We've been in this pattern for a long time, but next week is the first week of February, and there's a bit of a change on the way. We're going to talk all about it in your 7-day forecast. That's coming up here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
And I'm Jessica Smith. We are live here. I'm Jessica Smith. We're live here at the Royal Ontario Museum in the China Gallery for the kickoff of the Lunar New Year and the Year of the Snake. Coming up, we'll learn more about what it means to be in the Year of the Snake, and we'll look at some really unique artifacts they have here at the Royal Ontario Museum. All those details coming up after the break. I'm Jessica Smith, and we are live here at the Royal Ontario Museum for the kickoff of the Lunar New Year, and they have some really unique displays, and I want to bring in someone who is an expert. I have Jane Liu with the Royal Ontario Museum. Jane, come on in here. Okay. Talk to me about the Year of the Snake, because we just finished the Year of the Dragon, and we've stepped into the Year of the Snake, and what does that mean?
What's that mean? Because every year, Chinese culture, they have a 12th animal as a zodiac, so they just take turn, 12. So that means beginning of the Chinese New Year.
And we have a really unique kind of statue behind us, and this is for the Year of the Snake. So I'm going to step over on this side so we can get a nice little look of it. But talk to me about this statue in particular, because it's got a pretty unique story. There's 2 heads on there, but that is a snake.
Yeah, this is a very interesting one, because this is always displayed in the gallery, Tang Dynasty. Hard to believe, this is a 500 AD. You know how old this one. And you see the side, it's 2 human head and with 1 snake body. And usually they discover this in the tomb burial. They might use as a guardian. So that might indicate the Year of the Snake is protection. Protect your family, protect your marriage, protect your wealth.
Listen, we like protecting our wealth and our families. We're going to come around the other side here, Jane, and I want to kind of take a little bit of a look at another set of displays we have here, because they all represent a different zodiac sign. How important is this when it comes to Chinese culture and just recognizing what each year symbolizes?
That's right. So we have a 12 figurine right here. I think this is particularly made for the display. It's no other function. So you can see it's a beautiful glaze and indicate. So they are in the order. So
for each year of the zodiac. And we were looking at this when we first came in. We were talking about this particular statue here. It is the tortoise and it is the snake. And there's a bit of a special symbolism to this one as well.
Correct. So let's come to see this one. This is particularly is indicate of the tortoise. Tortoise is a turtle, just one of the 4 auspicious beasts according to the Chinese mythology. And that means, the 4 beasts. East is a dragon, south is the birds, and the west is a tiger, and the tortoise is the north. So, and the image always entwined with the snake. So this is from the very ancient.
It is super unique, and this is going to be here for the rest of the year, these displays, as we celebrate the year of the snake. So you can come down all year long to the Royal Ontario Museum and check things out. Jane, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of a tour. Is it Gung Hei Fat Choi?
Gung Hei Fat Choi.
And you say Happy New Year to everybody from the Royal Ontario Museum. We'll send things back inside. We're going to keep looking at the displays, right?
Please, yes, please.
We're going to go look at the displays. We'll send things back to you guys.
Happy New Year. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. And here in Toronto, it's the day of the shoveling.
Yes. Very good. That's right. A lot of flurries flying last night on the drive home.
Yep.
But I love the fact that we're seeing some highs on the plus side in the coming days.
Yes, and we started off the day on the plus side. That made the snow a little bit slushy, and then there was a little bit of freezing in some areas too, because that temperature is falling as we make our way through this afternoon. But Natalie's right. We do have several mild days to look forward to this week, and a cold one as well. Weather is brought to you by the Pressler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. It was a snowy evening around the GTA. If you had to be out on the roads last night around the dinner hour or any time after that, you know that it was a slow go. Transit disrupted as a result of this. Visibility reduced on the major routes too. And yeah, slippery sidewalks, all part of the deal. This was a clipper system, so widespread snow, system snow that moved through. Today, we're dealing with snow squalls. These are much more localized, so not everyone getting heavy snow this afternoon. Let me show you what it looks like right now on the satellite and radar imagery. And as you can see, we are now seeing a band start to extend over toward the Oshawa area, going to impact areas like Newcastle, Port Hope, Cobourg, and Hamilton recently added to a winter weather travel advisory. Also seeing some snow around Oakville and Burlington, Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, maybe 5 to 10 centimeters of additional snowfall today. And then the areas that you see there in orange, including Goderich, Owen Sound, and the city of Barrie, up to 25 centimeters of snow going to be possible by the end of today and into tomorrow. So there's about 6 o'clock tonight. Again, that one squall off of Georgian Bay could impact the East GTA. Things will improve in the West End. And then tomorrow, it is going to be a mostly cloudy day. We might see another burst of snow as we make our way into the afternoon. Not everyone going to be impacted. Then Friday, look what's happening at the bottom of the screen here. We're actually monitoring a Texas low, which is going to sweep across the United States. Right now, it's looking like mostly a miss for us here in southern Ontario, but we will be keeping a close eye on this one. Again, that's for your Friday. Right now, it's just the northern shore of Lake Erie that could be impacted. Here's a look at our almanac for today. Yesterday's daytime high ended up being 2.4 degrees. We were at 2 degrees very early this morning, but the temperature has fallen since then. Still 3 in the Windsor area, but as you can see, everywhere else, it is colder. Minus 10 degrees right now in Ottawa and minus 2 here locally. Tonight's low also expected to be around minus 10 degrees. Once again, feeling into the minus teens. Tomorrow, we're back on the plus side. Weather whiplash a little bit as far as the temperature is concerned. 1 for the high, wind chill minus 4. So let's talk about your 7-day forecast. There are a few things going on here. We've got the chance of flurries really over the next couple of days here. Some will be lake effect bands. Others are just going to be very scattered in flurries, not amounting to too much. Daytime highs of 1 degree for both Thursday and for Friday. Then the temperature plummets again Friday night and into the day on Saturday. It's going to be a very cold start to the weekend and start to February, but some sunshine in store for Saturday. A reminder that Sunday is Groundhog Day. And at this point, it looks as though it's going to be a cloudy day with the chance of flurries or the chance of rain showers. That's your look at the weather for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And coming up on CTV News at noon, it's highly contagious and on the rise. Cases of measles mounting in southern Ontario. After the break, expert insight and advice. There are mounting concerns over measles in southern Ontario.
It comes as officials with Grand Erie Public Health investigate the 10th case in the area in recent weeks. Several more suspected cases have also come forward. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has more.
The latest case of the highly infectious disease is a child from Haldeman, Norfolk. Officials say they are recovering at home.
We have one person. We have the cases that we have. 7 suspect cases have not been tested, so we can only call them suspect cases at this point because the confirmatory testing hasn't been done. We have 2 school exposures. As I say, one school was a grade 8 student, and there are 3 classes involved with that. We have a family that with a 2-year-old that I believe attended the hospital, local hospital, and is a probable case, and also another sibling of that child was involved as well. We have another family that's exposed to the previous exposures I mentioned, the twins.
They warn others may have been exposed to the measles at the following locations: Bethel Baptist School on Highway 3 East in Simcoe on January 20th or 21st between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., or at the Gray Gretzky Medical Center on Gray Street in Brantford on January 22nd between 10:45 a.m. and 2:45 p.m. Grand Erie Public Health, which is the new name for the recently merged Brant County and Haldeman Norfolk Health units, has seen a total of 10 cases of measles recently. 4 are in children, 6 are in adults. And Southwest Public Health, which covers Oxford County, Elgin, and St. Thomas, has also had 1 active case. Grand Erie health officials say anyone who may have been exposed should check their immunizations, especially those with weakened immune systems, babies, and pregnant individuals. Symptoms of measles include red rash, fever, cough, runny nose, red eyes, and fatigue. They can start anywhere from 7 to 21 days after exposure, and a person is contagious 4 days before to 4 days after the rash appears. Contact your health provider if you experience symptoms. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Depending on the kind of health care you may need, there can be waiting lists in Ontario for specialists and surgeries.
Some patients are choosing to head south of the border for quicker access to some health care, but there is no guarantee any of those costs will be covered. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
I had the 3 months of life left. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't be able to talk to you today.
DePietro Gregorio of Maple is 78 years old and has a history of Crohn's disease. In 2019, he had a bowel obstruction and emergency surgery to deal with it. After the operation, he says he was told the surgery wasn't necessary.
Then when they finished, they said that we didn't really have to do this. Ooh.
Gregorio says he was left with a colostomy bag but was told it could be reversed. He says what followed over the next 4 years were 8 more operations to correct the procedure, but in the end, issues remained. He ended up with 2 bags and was in severe pain. He was told nothing more could be done.
It was really bad. I was looking for a way to end my life.
With nowhere to turn in Ontario, he traveled to Ohio to the Cleveland Clinic. There he was told an operation could improve his life, but the cost would be $600,000. After the 11-hour operation, he says he finally felt relief.
They couldn't do a better job.
And do you have a colostomy bag now?
No, nothing.
Gregorio says he's not impressed with Ontario's healthcare system. When a U.S. doctor fixed in 1 operation, what Ontario doctors couldn't in 9 surgeries.
Why it took us 9 attempts to fix the same problem that they fixed it with 1.
Gregorio says he's paid healthcare taxes all his life and believes Ontario's Ministry of Health should cover his $600,000 hospital bill. But he was told it has been determined the medical treatment you received out of country does not meet the criteria to be considered an emergency. As a result, payment for health services has been denied. Gregorio feels he had no choice but to go to the U.S. and believes at least a portion of the bill should be paid.
It's not fair to say we can't touch you anymore, we can't pay you anything. That's definitely not fair.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, the Bank of Canada has cut interest rates, but with U.S. tariff threats looming, the next moves are unclear. We have the details and the rest of your business headlines after the break.
The Bank of Canada has cut interest rates, but maybe signaling the reductions in borrowing costs are over for now.
Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. Canadian interest rates are coming down again, but further reductions are uncertain until it becomes clear what kind of tariffs U.S. President Donald Trump is actually planning. The Bank of Canada reduced borrowing costs by a 0.25 percentage point. and warned that U.S. duties on Canadian goods are a threat to the economy. Overall, though, the bank's comments suggested it isn't likely to announce more reductions until the specifics of Trump's trade policy are known. Shares in Toronto-listed gold producers Agnico Eagle and Alamos Gold hit record highs. Bullion traded near $2,770 US an ounce, only about $30 shy of its all-time high in October. Some nervous investors are seeking stable places, such as gold, to park money as the U.S. White House continues to make tariff threats. And finally, Starbucks shares rose 6%. Sales slipped in the company's latest quarter, but the decline wasn't as bad as in the previous period. The company has won back customers with changes such as removing extra charges for non-dairy milk. It's also speeding up slow service and reintroducing ceramic mugs. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
Honda Canada is recalling roughly 70,000 vehicles over a software glitch that could cause engines to stall. The recall affects 2023 to 2025 Honda Pilots, 2022 to 2025 Acura MDX Type S, and 2021 to 25 Acura TLX Type S models. Honda says improper programming could cause the engine to lose power, hesitate, or stall, which could cause a crash. Drivers with affected vehicles will be contacted by mail. In the U.S., Honda is also recalling nearly 300,000 affected vehicles. No crashes or injuries have been reported. You can find the full details on our website, ctvnews.ca.
A major romance scam has deceived more than a dozen women out of tens of thousands of dollars.
The charismatic culprit meeting most of the victims online. Here's W5's John Woodward with part one of his investigation.
Girls in love never gave back diamond rings. He was boisterous, he was charming. Nikki McPhee knew him as Johnny Myers, and he seemed like relationship material. Wish every boy had a swing.
He comes off caring, he's very charismatic. He was a good singer, he was always singing country songs. We had a really good time together, and I guess that got me to lower my guard.
And with her guard down, Johnny approached her with an investment opportunity at a business in Ontario. It didn't work out.
How much money did you lose?
$30,000.
Around the same time, Ange Medill was dating him too. She says he offered to sell her motorcycle, but she never saw the money.
Like once you stop giving him money, then the cracks start opening, the red flags start appearing.
He sold that motorcycle to Naomi Wolf and pocketed most of the money.
8 months, I was with a man who I thought was John Myers.
And he asked Amy Todd for $60,000 for a horse business that turned out to belong to another woman. She never got her money back.
I actually almost lost my house. I still owe $20,000.
These women didn't know it then, but all of these boyfriends were one and the same. 39-year-old John Mulder, who changed his name and his story multiple times as he met women across Ontario. Medill found his picture on this website, Are We Dating the Same Man?, with comments from more than 100 women. Many said they met him on online dating services.
So the night I discovered him on the website, it was like soul crushing. It was almost like I was floating in air, like I couldn't breathe.
She called the police. She learned he had been charged before, and soon scattered criminal cases from across southern Ontario were pulled together at this court just outside Toronto. Mulder pleaded guilty to counts related to 13 women across southern Ontario, fraudulently obtaining more than $160,000 and 2 vehicles over 2 years. The sentence, 8 years in prison. He told the court, "What I've done was absolutely terrible. I hurt a lot of people. I've been at this game a long time." The Crown said he had a criminal history of 79 convictions, about half for fraud, half for failing to appear or breaching, a handful for assault. His lawyer telling the court the 39-year-old was addicted to money. The judge, Jill Cameron, said the only reasonable conclusion is greed, warning him you will spend the rest of your life in jail in bits and pieces if you don't stop. Romance scams are on the rise in Canada, from $52 million in 2023 to $58 million in 2024. The experience a wake-up call for McPhee.
And what kind of impact did this scam have on you?
I thought of scams as someone who's going to call your grandparents saying your grandkid's in jail, or someone who's going to be pretending to collect your taxes. I never thought a scam would be someone who's living in my house and telling me that they loved me.
She wishes the justice system had cracked down on Mulder before she met him, and is asking women to be skeptical of demands for money from those they meet online.
And in part 2 of the story, John tells us how the scam continued from prison. That story airs tonight on CTV National News.
In sports, the Toronto Scepters were looking for a second straight win when they took on the Minnesota Frost last night.
Goal tonight. Can she tie it up? Comfort coming in. Stop by Rooney, and Minnesota wins the shootout.
Minnesota came out on top in a shootout after Toronto came from behind to force overtime. The team ended up losing the game 4-3. The Scepters will play Montreal tomorrow.
The Toronto Maple Leafs return to the ice tonight, hoping to get back in the win column.
Marner behind the net, takes a look in front, scores, Bobby McMahon.
The Leafs lost to Ottawa 2-1 on Saturday, their second loss in a row. This evening, Toronto welcomes the Minnesota Wild to town. Leafs winger Max Pacioretty appears ready to return after a 3-game absence with an upper body injury.
Just a bundle of injuries has derailed their season. Oh! Pirtle finds RJ as Barrett gets behind the D.
And the Raptors are on a roll. They beat New Orleans on Monday and will go for their 5th straight win in Washington tonight. The Wizards have lost 14 in a row and are last in the Eastern Conference.
Coming up, Stranger Things is one of the more popular shows on Netflix, and now a parody musical of the 80s supernatural drama has landed in Toronto. Andrea Case has a preview after this short break.
Well, some TV shows are ripe for parody, and when a campy supernatural drama starring a group of kids in the 80s became a worldwide hit, it was only a matter of time.
Now, Stranger Things, or what we should really say is Stranger Sings, the parody musical, has landed on a Toronto stage. CTV's Andrea Case has the story.
Something strange has just happened in Hawkins. If you've seen the show Stranger Things, you know things do go wrong.
So, yes, I'm crazy.
First airing in 2016, Stranger Things was a global hit for Netflix. The 5th and final season will air this year.
I say, come and have some fun in the upside-down world.
Joan Mansfield's son, Zach, brought it and the stage musical parody to her attention.
I didn't really watch the Netflix series, and in actual fact, you can come and not have seen the series. You get it. It's funny.
Once cast, the show was rehearsed in just 13 days at the Randolph Theatre on Bathurst, south of Bloor, and was chosen because of its intimacy and the ability to have a 90-show run. Stranger Things started in the UK, crossed the pond to New York, where it won 7 off-Broadway awards, including Best New Musical. But bringing the show to Toronto, well, that was years in the making.
Over 2 years via Zoom meetings and all kinds of neat things and talking, they decided that, yeah, why not give us the rights for the premiere.
Coincidentally, Brockville's Rebecca Rodley attended theater school in the very same building she's now performing in.
The show, it's a very loving parody of the TV show. That's something that's really nice about it is parody, it is fun, there's so many moments where you're laughing, but there are also moments of sensitive emotions.
She plays Joan Byers, a mother with mental health issues and a son who's gone missing.
I also play her son, Will, so it's kind of it's a very fun, like characters to play within one show. And Will is missing for quite a bit of the show.
I may be a nerd and allergic to ants. One time I talked to a girl and wet my pants.
Set in Indiana in the 1980s, Mansfield says the music and fashion will be familiar, and that's part of the draw. Stranger Things, the musical parody, is on stage now and runs until April 26th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Nothing bad ever happened in small towns.
Well, as we turn our attention to the weather forecast, I wouldn't call it strange, but there is a lot going on today.
There is. So once again, we are buckling up for a little bit of a temperature roller coaster. This time, the temperature, it's falling through the day as opposed to rising as it typically does. It'll feel cold again tonight, but it'll be a less active night tonight than it was last night. Here's one more look at the satellite and radar. We do have snow falling in some areas, especially for the west end of the GTA right now, and just north of the city too. We're going to watch those snow squall bands throughout the day. It's going to bring us the chance of flurries right through this evening. But again, we're not looking at that widespread accumulating snow like we had yesterday. Tomorrow's forecast daytime high around 1 degree. So suddenly we're back above freezing, above normal. Next 7 days look like this. Look at the start of the weekend. A very cold start and then a very mild end to next weekend again. Natalie and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV's News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Natalie Johnson. Be sure to join us later tonight for CTV News at 5 and 6 o'clock.